Okay, so this video produced by the Jehovah's Witnesses is called How Can You Safeguard Your Heart? And it follows 3 different stories of how Jehovah's Witnesses sacrifice something or someone in their life to put the organization first. But I want to zone in on one story in particular, and that's Brent and Lauren. So this couple lives in South Africa, and they're talking about their decision to stop associating with another couple that were really good friends of theirs. Why did they cut these friends out? Let's listen.
Well, very good friends of ours decided they wanted to go their own way and leave Jehovah, and in that interim they became bad association for us. We had many good times together. We drove to isolated territory together. We even visited a brother who was sick in hospital to encourage him. I feel heartbroken that they're no longer serving Jehovah.
It's really hard to lose a friend spiritually, very hard. That article, it was just what we needed. It described a watchman that would protect the city by sounding out an alarm on impending danger. And at sounding that alarm, he would shut the gates to the city to protect the city. And I needed to do that.
Well, we both needed to do that. And it's not even a question. Our loyalty to Jehovah comes first before we're loyal to any friends we have in this world. Not a day goes by where we don't think about these friends of ours, and it's certainly our hope that they come back to Jehovah, that we can serve Jehovah together, shoulder to shoulder.
But we've also learned to keep our little watch guard in check. He needs to make sure he does his job and sound the alarm and shut those gates.
All right. So Brent and Lauren are really upset because their really good friends are now apostate. They don't use this word, but they're basically saying that they're heartbroken, that their very dear friends, very close friends of theirs, have left Jehovah, and now they're bad association. This means their friends left the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. They left an organization, a corporation. We don't know if their friends left Jehovah as God in their head still. Maybe they still see Jehovah as God. Maybe their friends still believe in Jesus. We don't know anything about them. They could be great people, Christian or not. But witnesses, of course, love to use propaganda phrases like this. Like, they left Jehovah to paint their friends in a negative light. So the listener, who is in the same echo chamber with them, the listener doesn't have to do any intellectual heavy lifting. The listener doesn't have to think for themselves. So they hear that, oh, they left Jehovah, so they're just automatically going to go, oh, okay, I get what that means. They're apostate now. Oh, what a shame. There's a difference between I want to be friends with someone who aligns with my values, okay, and refusing to hear alternate viewpoints and choosing to stay in a group that just pats each other on the back with zero critical analysis or accountability. I mean, look, here's the deal. When I left the organization, I fell into a friend group. Unfortunately, we're not friends anymore because, I mean, it felt like I was back in Watchtower in the sense that I was hoping for some more moderate discussion or exchange of ideas, and really it just amounted to essentially trapped in what amounted to a political ideological circle jerk. It was very us versus them, black and white thinking, and I was like, oh hell no, I just left this. It was just disheartening to see complete lack or complete inability to hold a civil conversation or debate. Everyone else was just automatically wrong, and I was like, no. And similarly, like what I saw in this video is, for decades when I was a Jehovah's Witness, Jehovah's Witnesses would brag about their, how they fought for their religious freedoms in civil and supreme courts. They'll talk about how they're for love and joy and paradise, but at the same time would just brutally cut out any friends or family who expressed justified concerns or any sort of dissenting viewpoint. Not some random asshole on the internet or on the street who's just trying to stir up shit or doesn't know what they're talking about. This is someone you claim to love, and you are completely shutting them down. So what was just wild to me about all this is that you fought so hard to not be censored. You didn't want to be censored, and now you are censoring friends and family. Like witnesses, you literally became the thing you hate. Of course, they don't see it this way because they posit themselves as the morally invulnerable group. Like, think about it. Who would refute or be against paradise? Paradise meaning, even if you have no interest in living in a paradise that actually looks like North Korean propaganda. The idea that there's no poverty, injustice, there's racial and ethnic equality, everybody has what they need. It's a society born of love and compassion. Of course, who wouldn't want that? It sounds very sparkly and beautiful and humane. And they'll use buzzwords like, we stand for truth. They pedestalize themselves so that the second you express even the slightest dissenting viewpoint or pose a justified criticism of the governing body, which is like their administration, you think of it that way, it triggers something in their brain. It must mean that you are 100% full stop, wholesale on Satan's side. You're the bad guy now. And she's like, whoa. Like, how did we get from point A to point Z? Like, I didn't say I hate Jehovah's Witnesses, that I suddenly worship the devil, that I don't want these good things, peace, love, harmony on earth. I just have some justified criticisms or concerns of the governing body. I don't think they're qualified or should have the right to rule over other people's lives. Two things can be true. Just because I want all these good things, like you also want these good things, doesn't mean that the governing body and the Jehovah's Witnesses organization are the answer. Just because I don't support the organization doesn't mean I don't hold these positive values. Lauren is using the metaphorical watchman closing the gates to protect her from dangerous influences, in this case her friends, who left the organization. What I found absolutely hilarious or ironic about this is, for time immemorial, Jehovah's Witnesses have used the illustration of, well, what if your neighbor's house was on fire? You're not just going to sit there and watch it burn. You're going to race over there and warn your neighbors so you could try to, save their life. Society is doomed without us. And if we don't run out there and preach and convert people, they're going to lose their lives. Well, what about Lauren's friends? What are they doing? What if Lauren's friends are racing to tell her about the child abuse problem in the organization, or that the Jehovah's Witnesses were a registered NGO with the United Nations for 10 years, despite telling witnesses to remain politically neutral? What if her friends are trying to encourage Lauren to see new light for what it really is, evidence that the witnesses don't in fact have the truth, since their doctrine is constantly changing? Wouldn't it make sense for Lauren to be grateful that her friend is rushing to the gates to save her? Obviously, this logic doesn't run both ways. Like those gates, Lauren's mind has been trained to immediately shut down critical thinking that poses a threat to her worldview. I'm guessing this couple are millennials, like they're around my age. And it just kills me to see people from my generation still trapped inside, because I get it if you're like from that boomer generation, older generation, maybe, you didn't have the internet, social media, the Google machine, they didn't have the ability to just hop on Reddit, hear different viewpoints. And don't get me wrong, there are boomers who, or other generations that back in the 80s and 90s woke up, just because they read the literature and met people, or they're the ones that wrote books saying, oh my God, this is not the truth. There's plenty of people before then, or before, my generation, that did wake up and got out. But now there's so much information out there for people to be able to make an informed decision. Seriously, that should show you the firm grip or legacy of control that this organization has on its members. Like, this is not some, dusty, old, silly religion. It's still alive and hurting people. Like, it's still living on, and that's why I keep talking about it. This is a generational thing. Brent and Lauren's family, their parents, the organization counted on their parents to indoctrinate Brent and Lauren respectively. Then Brent and Lauren get together, they're indoctrinated. If they ever have kids, they're just going to repeat the cycle. If these Brent and Lauren types finally opened their eyes and took a firm stand and left, that old guard is dying off. Like, we would have a real chance of seeing Watchtower just fall by the wayside of, Amway and Heaven's Gate. Cults that people have categorically recognized as such. The general consensus is categorically they have recognized them as such, recognized those other groups as cults. But as long as, fairly decent, clean-cut, harmless-looking people like Brent and Lauren repeat the cycle and keep it alive with their offspring or whatever, the organization remains a cult hiding in plain sight. I truly hope that Brent and Lauren find their freedom one day. They're young still, I have hope for them, and I understand why they felt the need to cut off their friends. I get the pressure that they're under. They're indoctrinated, to think their friends are dangerous now. But I would put money on it that there is a tiny little seed in the back of their minds that might be afraid of what they find out if they were to listen to their friends. I mean, I could say I was that way. I shunned some of my friends that left, only to come around years later, hunt them down, get their number, call them and apologize. I'll admit I was self-righteous, tightly wound, quite frankly, terrified of what I would learn. Terrified that what I would learn just might set me free from what was secretly making me miserable. So, if you're watching this and maybe you're part of a different group, there's the witnesses, you're not a witness or whatever, it doesn't apply, but there's some other situation you're in, you see the parallels and you're the one who's being shut out right now. I'm sorry, but you know what? Keep doing you, because anyone who is mature and reasonable is going to be willing to have uncomfortable conversations instead of just doubling down. Okay, it's normal and healthy to evolve as you grow older. But our tastes change in food. Maybe certain movies or whatever that we thought were funny when we were a kid are not funny anymore. It just doesn't land. Because our brains have developed and we've changed over time. Life experience has molded us and our values might change over time. And it doesn't have to be so black and white, stark differences. Like, we can focus on our similarities and still see the good in each other. I'm sorry, Brent Lauren, any friend who is just completely incapable of engaging in some sort of civil debate, you can still see the good in each other. You can call out things that, see the differences, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe you're wrong. We can at least have a conversation. We could possibly learn from each other. Anyone who's not willing to do that and just, continues to hit below the belt, I don't know, you might want to cut your losses and look for new friends who are at least willing to or are capable of demonstrating some sort of intellectual flexibility. Has this happened to you? Whether you're a Jehovah's Witness or not, go ahead and leave a comment. As always, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.